Ladies and gentlemen, friends, folks of all ages, listeners, the Cross Commission podcast. Welcome back. It's been, I think, a month since we've done one of these. It was the Fall Ball Top 20 episode, I want to say.
Yeah.
So we're back just a week away from Thanksgiving. So if this may be the last probably do before Thanksgiving. There may be one more. Fingers crossed. We're hoping for one more that we think you guys will enjoy a lot. But if it is, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Late Thanksgiving this year. It's November 20th.
You know, I love the late Thanksgiving. Right into Christmas, December. Like I know it's first world problems, but yeah, that full week sometimes of still November to get through. It's like painful. I know businesses probably like it because you can start the Christmas stuff in full like an extra week. But yeah, nothing beats a late Thanksgiving. Only bad part about this year is that because of the date, Christmas and New Year's are, standalone holidays instead of it's barbaric when it's not like right on the Friday, going into the weekend. Like that's the only way really Christmas and New Year's should go. I'm a big fan of you've heard of it probably, you're a smart kid, like the permanent calendar that essentially it's like it will save businesses tons of money instead of also, but a lot of benefits. But I read one of the major impediments were people didn't want to lose having a birthday on a weekend or before a weekend, and so that was literally one of the big pushbacks that some of these professors.
I think that's as you can tell, it's safe and Jake got you tonight. I think Ryan is working, I believe. So shout out to him. I think that one, I like a permanent calendar. I think three major changes I would make if you put me in charge of this kind of stuff. Permanent calendar, I like that. Obviously, daylight saving time gone.
That hurts me because I just love saying the saving. There's no that's it's not plural.
I just think there's some obviously it being dark out. I walked out of work today at 4 o'clock, and it was just not good. It was a bad scene. It was already overcast and cloudy today. And then at 4 o'clock, I'm like, God, it just looks bad.
Wouldn't you be weirded out? I don't want to take away from your third one, but I love this topic. It's like an evergreen topic for daylight saving time discussions. But wouldn't it be weird to have it not see the sun until 9 o'clock in the morning? I'd be like, what's I would just
no, because I mean, we get sun here at it'd be 8, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's 6:37, but it would be 7:30, and then before the winter solstice, right? It'll get later and later before the sun actually comes out. So
all right, here we go. Let's look at this. What's the?
They did try to get rid of this in the 70s. They actually did, and it was like a disaster. People were like, "No, it's horrible." And I have a coworker. While you look at that, I'll just vamp. I have a coworker who absolutely hates it. And the one year where they were kind of actually trying to move it through Congress, but it didn't pass the Senate. He thought, it did get passed and everything. And the Friday morning, I was like, hey, sorry about the clocks and everything. And he was like, what? It's not. He literally flipped out. He's like, I thought they passed it. I was like, no, it's died in the Senate. And he was just I hate this holiday. Or it's not the holiday.
All right, November 1st in Baltimore, sunrise was 7:33. 8:30. I could do with it for, if you're telling me that I'm getting sunset even in winter at 6:05. I was gonna think it was 4:45 or 5 o'clock, and I was working on something the other day, and I was like, I think I'm gonna get a walk in before but I want to finish this thing first. By the time I was done, it was pitch dark outside. I was like, it's over. It's done.
It's having only a 5x5 down comforter. Some part of you is going to be cold. It's just not going to be able to come. So, but yeah, for me, I was like, I'd rather see the sun at least in the morning, and then is what it is. Because again, first world problem. I just walk to work and it's like 10 minutes. So it's still kind of
yeah, me, I'm like by 7:30, I'm in a building, so it doesn't really matter. You know, I'm just I don't leave the building for another. That's part of it. When I usually I'm out at 3:30, so it's okay. But if I'm out today, like at 4 o'clock, it's getting kind of scary out there. This isn't good. I just think everything. I think people. I do think it would generally help people to be able to get like more time outside in the winter. I think that would help people a lot. I think it would help people's moods. I think it would, do a lot for that. The last one, I think you'd be really unfair with this. I think we need more holidays.
Yeah.
I think we need so I'm thinking another. You'll really like this, especially because it kind of joins you. I think the NFL, they're going to do this. They're going to do I think they're going to do the thing you had about the President's Day thing.
Oh God. Yeah.
What I would do instead, don't do it on President's Day. Keep it where it is, but just make Super Bowl Monday a holiday anyway.
Oh, just in the I think so. I mean, that's
just
either one. I'm fine. Yeah, but that Monday after the Super Bowl should be a holiday, either already one set in, or it could culturally. Like I think you could get that pass.
Yeah. I just think your holiday. It's like one more kind of like winter. You're come down from winter. Either January or February. I think they should fit one more holiday in there. But January you have Martin Luther King Day, so I think there should be a somewhere in April, May, kind of like a spring kickoff kind of.
I think March, going from Washington's birthday or President's Day, you got Easter, but like March doesn't have anything. Like we really could, or I guess you could. Yeah, Good Friday, some people, but no, not many like official.
Something there late March, April, just kind of like a spring kickoff thing. Get people outdoors, moving around, have things like that. I think that's good. I think you got Memorial Day. I think maybe one more thing in August. Maybe one more like August before Labor Day. Some like kind of like farewell to summer type thing. And then I think you could do either September, October, maybe Halloween. I don't know. I think one more in like October is like I generally think this is a big thing. I think people like holidays, obviously. Two, I think more things. Everyone's always talking about like we need to get people together outside more. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Just get people off work. So that's my thing.
That's why I've always been a proponent of the 4-day work week. Like,
now we're cooking. Now we're cooking.
I'm like tilting at windmills at work because I'm like, because we still have like 2 remote days, and I'm like, listen, I'm not a weirdo. I get why people like. I was like, for me, the benefit is not that because like the commute is nothing. Like I actually rather would walk, to just sit in my apartment all day long. But I was like, but we as a society should move to the 4-day work week. That's the real goal. I was like, you can't. All you really are just in, again, maybe too pejorative, but like you're just in a prison. You just have a slightly better setting because you're at home instead of at work, but your time is still being allotted to somewhere else. And it's just like right off the top, 52 extra days off. Right off the top. Not vacation days, not sick days, not admin, just right off the top.
Days off.
Yeah, 7 weeks, 7.5 weeks. I guess some of them, are Friday holidays or Monday holidays, so that wouldn't count. But at least like almost like 6 to 7 weeks right just given to you, because of like the change. And like, I know people say like, oh, people are more productive remote. I was like, I love to see the actual like the data on that because I don't really, especially if like I think like some positions is really difficult to remote. But just even regardless, it's like, why would you rather like? Would you not just rather come to work 1/3 more per week to increase your weekend by 50%? To me, it's just not. And then when people like, I make that case, they're like, oh yeah, that's. But I heard like been a little bit difficult convincing some of the higher ups. I joked around. I was like, yeah, let me get that. They're probably like a lot of older guys. They probably love lacrosse. I was like, I'll start there. And it's then they'll be like ready. Then they'll buy in. This guy's talking my language.
No, you're on to dude. I'll just take up conversation with people at work about this. I'm like, listen, man, like if you have me 4 days, the thing is, I don't even care where you put it. You could do Monday, cool. I'm cool with it. You could do Wednesday, and I'm okay. split the week.
2 days off, 2 days longer off. Like, what's guesses?
Or you could do
And you're
Friday.
smart. Because the Wednesday, then you still got like the holidays on the Mondays and Fridays that you don't like lose. So it's like just more days off.
During COVID, that's how they did it in education, or at least in like Maryland. Like it was Wednesdays were like obviously like everyone was at home, but even like with the hybrid and everything, it was Wednesday was like you did the virtual like classes Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday was like a half day, just like office hour type thing. And I'm like, I'd even one, obviously I prefer the whole day off. I'd even be willing to do that.
Oh yeah.
Like just do like Wednesdays, I'll just be in a Zoom or whatever, and if we want to pop in, you pop in. Like I'd even do that. But like I think it's one, I absolutely believe like the work from home productivity, I don't know, I'm not really red on it. I guarantee you productivity would go up in 4 days. 100%.
The other stuff was like they've shown like that it's kind of like flimsy like data about the remote work, but like the countries that have done the 4-day work week, there have been like multi-year studies, and like 85% of the people who like the companies do it, they're like, yeah, our people would walk if we reverse this, and we've been more productive because just with technology, like you don't need 8.5 hours a lot to do most of the work really in like white collar computer sector, laptop type of jobs, and it's just like. I think like it would help a lot with like the childcare and stuff like that. Like I feel bad for these parents who are paying like $20,000 a month. Maybe that's a little bit of $2,000 a month. Like
it's crazy. No, it's nuts. It's nuts. Whatever it is,
then you
whatever the number is,
cut
nuts.
that right there 20% off because now you're home. Like, and then it's like 20% less than that of. But yeah, I always joke around that the long arc of history. The arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. Yeah, the arc of the proletariat is long, but it bends towards a 4-day work week. That's where we should go as a society together.
It's like one. Think about it's like we have like 5 days. Like one, by the time you get to everyone's been there. By the time I'm like by Thursday and Friday, like a planning period for me is just like I'm very productive Monday, I'm very productive Tuesday. And then I'm like, all right, I'll get all this done so I can just grade Thursday, Friday, whatever. Even by that point, I'm just like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to sitting at my desk, and I'm just like, just look at the time.
Absolutely.
Like, it's look, I'm in education. Like, I promise you, the kids, there's a finite amount. I'm like, if we're sitting here talking about this, imagine a 13-year-old.
Oh yeah.
4 days, I would even, I'd even kind of shorten the length of the day, but I know that's difficult with, child and everything. So yeah, I promise, it's just sitting there waiting to happen.
Oh, somebody needs to just grab that torch and just carry it to the White House. That is something you can galvanize like a large sector of people around. Yeah.
Yeah, just gotta do it.
It's also more fair because, like, again, I'm not the moral police or whatever, but there's some jobs you can't do remote, right? So like these people like can't do that. Like a 4-day work week, if the business allows it, is something that everybody then could enjoy. Like, yeah, listen, I'm with it. Anytime I see people like, I'm like, listen, this is where we really should be going towards. And I have like slowly like subterfuge in the office. I'm like, why don't we do this? IC's been doing it for 2 years. They love it. Like,
all right, that's a good intro. The title of this
we still got it.
Arm feels good. It's easy 95.
We're just like Yamato, just throwing them from like center field to warm up.
The title of this pod is just good old lacrosse talk because that's what's on the docket. We're just gonna. We don't have, it's not like quite mailbag, though if you guys want to throw questions at us in the future, just throw them at us. It's kind of an ode to Bill Simmons bringing back the mailbag pod. Tremendous content. The one where it was like, actually I can't mention though, our no politics one, but that was a rule. That was super funny. The one where he did NBA conspiracies, and he did like he did it 1 to 10 of like. Not quite a conspiracy to conspiracy, but yet the number one thing was like the Tim Donaghy the gambling thing.
Oh,
like, I feel like
leaked it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like that's a high level conspiracy. It's there's no rational order between his 1 and 10. Like he starts with stuff that's like that seems like it's a big deal. That he strictly picks stuff that is like very close to his interests. There's like 5 different Lakers things on there. Like he lost it. So this is our thing. We've got some questions that we haven't shared with each other, in the interest of good radio. And we're just gonna roll them out there, and we're just gonna talk shop and kind of take stock of things about 9 weeks before the season starts, something like that. We got one more week in November. We have 5-ish weeks in December. That's 6, 9 weeks, or I guess the end of the 10th week would be the start of the season, January 31st. So it's coming quickly. So yeah, that's the thing. Just sit back, grab yourself a beverage, and we're just gonna talk some lacrosse, 2026. All right, so if you want to go first, you want me to go first? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I'll go first. Just
All right.
throw it out there because hopefully goes into the thing that we want. I'm going to go with my more not softball, but like more generic, fun one, and then I'll save the other one for next round. Jake, name an announcer in any sport that you would love to start doing lacrosse, like announcing.
Oh wow. Okay, I didn't think about that. That's a good one. I'll do this won't be my answer because it's cheating, but I'll just kind of like start there. I would love if, and it's probably not really feasible. If Joe Beninati was just the voice of college lacrosse, I think that would be terrific. If he did like ESPN games, if he did the NCAA tournament, he did NCAA tournament games prior for ESPN. He hasn't done well, I think, since BTN started. But again, it's not really feasible with the capital schedule and things like that. But if he was like the permanent voice of college lacrosse, I think that would be tremendous. Sean McDonough did it for a little bit, and I don't think he did it for long enough to really like pick up on the intricacies of like the rules, things like that. I think he did okay just by the fact he's a great broadcaster. And so like if you go back, but like if you listen, you could tell he was very new to it, and I just don't think he had the kind of time really to like learn the sport and like everything like that. That stuff takes time. I always think of like the example of Chris Fowler, who he's done it for years now, but when he was asked to do like tennis, and like he spent years and like spent so much time like just watching random matches, like just going and like sitting in like court 15 watching guys play to like really become an expert to some degree, and to know like the intricacies of the sport and how everything functions. And again, today he's like he's been the voice of tennis for years and years now. But I always like think it does take a lot of kind of work to, if you're not kind of used to the sport, to do that. I think Joe Davis will do a really good job. The lead baseball announcer. I think he'd do very well. Well, I'll do one. I think Adam Amin would do a very good job.
Okay, yeah.
He does some of the Fox broadcasts with Pierzynski and Wainwright. I think he's like their. I think he'd do a really good job. Who's the guy? Ruoko, the guy who does the women's basketball for ESPN.
I've heard of him, but don't know his work too well.
He does. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. He does a really good job as well. So that's just a few who I think I look at, and I feel like have the kind of voice for it, kind of personality that I think would fit well. So yeah, I think that's it. But those are kind of ones that come off the top of my head. If we had more time, maybe able to nail something down.
Definitely. Maybe too mainstream, but yeah, I was going with Kevin Harlan. I just thought like crossover basketball to lacrosse like would be something they could get, and I would love to just hear bang, like short stick defenseman like on the fast break.
I thought about Harlan.
Yeah, I just love his energy, like his voice, like definitely does. I think Gus Johnson would be fun too for just because he's kind of has that energy as well that, with the college kids, like, that lacrosse starts to get a little bit bigger, sideline antics and stuff like that. I think you could really have fun with those. But those were the two that definitely came to mind off the top of my head.
I like those. Yeah, it's pretty good. All right. All right. I have one of these I shared with you earlier, so I'll save that one. Just so we can kind of continue the idea of like, the surprise element. Okay. Actually, no, here's what I'll do. I want to like break this up. Is this the year, is 2026 potentially a year where Virginia's like hoodoo against Duke actually really matters? And let me kind of explain here. Obviously, the fact that they've only beaten Duke once in like the past 15 years and twice in the past 20 years or whatever is insane. It's a crazy, it doesn't make any sense. However, and I don't mean to say like the rivalry of that game doesn't matter, but I think when you look at the overall arc of Virginia's season, for the most part, it hasn't really affected them. They lose. 2022 is a great example. Virginia is the only ACC team to make the NCAA tournament that year. They still lost to Duke that year.
Yes, it did.
And that didn't wind up getting Duke in over Virginia. For the most part, Virginia is always just good enough, like had great teams, and losing to Duke is kind of a weird quirk or anomaly in their season. 2026, though, I think it'd be fair to say that most people would have Virginia and Duke as going in 4th or 5th in some order in the ACC. And maybe with like a gap to the top 3 in Syracuse, Notre Dame, and North Carolina. I think that's not, again, I think that's, some people might differ. I think that's probably fair to say. I think when the preseason top 20 comes out, you're going to see Syracuse and North Carolina. You might see Syracuse, North Carolina, Notre Dame all in the top 5. I definitely think you'll see 2 of those in the top 5. So, whereas Virginia and Duke, I think, might be in the top. I don't think Virginia will be the top 10. Duke might be, but could easily be also outside of it. And so, if we kind of take this idea that for whatever reason Virginia can't beat Duke, and you kind of view it as like they're starting in an 0-1 hole in the ACC already, can the 2026 Virginia team really afford to start in an 0-1 hole in the ACC? And on the flip side, if you're Duke and what's kind of been a guaranteed sort of win that you can have in your column in the ACC, you take that away, maybe you could lose to Virginia, and then you got to hunt for wins against the other 3. Does that start to matter? So is this a year where, because I think last year it kind of did. Correct me if I'm wrong. If Virginia beat Duke last year, they would have made the NCAA, not the NCAA, the ACC tournament, correct?
Yes,
I think so. Because Virginia was 0-for, but they would have been 1-3
with the tiebreaker, right?
And on the flip side, Duke was 1-2. So yeah, that game would have decided who got into the ACC tournament. So Virginia would have got into the ACC tournament. Maybe they win 2 games there and get in the NCAA tournament out, but that ended their season. And it got Duke. Duke won that game. They beat North Carolina in the semifinals, and they got a home game. So I think you could argue 2025, it really did have an effect. I think 2026, again, I look at these 2 teams, and I think they are, I mentioned this a lot. This is my last point, then I'll let you go. 5-team ACC is a lot more uncommon than people think. I think it's only happened once, maybe twice. I think since 2015, I think it's only happened twice. The first 2015 and then 2021 when there was no Ivy League. So it's a lot more uncommon the full 5 teams get in than you think. There's usually one team that's missing. In the past, it's been North Carolina. I don't think anyone sees that happen this year. I think Virginia and Duke feel like they're fighting for that last spot in the ACC, in the last NCAA tournament spot. And so I think Virginia, to me, this feels like that whatever's got that they can't get over when it comes to playing Duke. That feels maybe this is a year where that could be really impactful. That maybe really could decide their season one way or another. Right or wrong?
I think you're right, which may also be echoed by Virginia's schedule, which was just recently released. You probably saw it on Twitter, but some of the teams from last year, most notably like Ohio State, are not on this year's schedule and didn't really replace them with added comparable opponent. Now that could be indicative of that. Charlottesville is a little concerned about this season and maybe lighten the load to try to have a better overall record and to avoid a sub 500. But as we kind of noted, and you accurately point out the chat, that also doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room. Where if you end up not having the non-conference record that you're kind of looking for, looking at here, they got the Hopkins game they're playing at Maryland. They're going to be Hopkins will be at UVA stuff. But at Maryland, Towson they'll be hosting. They'll also be hosting Utah, Dartmouth. Not Duncan on these. They had the Richmond game, which should be pretty quality opponent at least. And Colgate had their moments, but some of the teams that removed from the schedule from last year.
Ohio State.
Huge, especially going into the season, Ohio State probably is going to be a top 10 team, if not a little bit higher. So that just for overall getting into the tournament purposes, having a little bit less of a impressive strength of schedule, maybe emphasizes that Duke game even more, and that more of their season, the non-conference slate doesn't go that route. Potentially lose to Hopkins and Maryland. Lost to Hopkins last year. Hopkins wasn't that major of a force. So lose to Hop, you lose to Maryland, you lose your two biggest non-con games. Probably going to be underdog against Cuse. They'll be at Cuse. Probably, honestly, I think an underdog against North Carolina, even though they'll be at home, just given how potent that Carolina team is and how they kind of demolished UVA last year. Notre Dame, kind of still has their similar. Recent successful stretch against UVA. So, you may be fighting for last with Duke, and Duke. We don't pick on these teams.
Here's I think the way to put it. I would say there's a whole lot of teams that Virginia has, I think, and that Duke has that will probably have, or at least has had in the past in their schedule, that are, for it to be additive to your schedule, those teams really have to reach their ceiling. So it's like a team like last year, Colgate reached the ceiling for Virginia. Colgate was as good as you could have. Colgate wound up finishing 15th in RPI. That's about as high as Colgate could have got. Colgate was a plus for Virginia's schedule last year, but because Colgate really reached their ceiling. Johns Hopkins was an ad for team schedule, and Johns Hopkins was at their floor. They were 17th in RPI, and they were about as bad as they possibly could have been. Virginia's the same way in that, Virginia was 13th in RPI, and Virginia was 6 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan in here, 7 and 7, but was 18th. For these power conference teams, they don't have to reach their ceiling to still be a boon on your schedule. Whereas if you're Colgate, kind of has to be, that was their peak. If Colgate is Colgate's 2 or 3 wins worse, probably doesn't add. Stony Brook's a good example. Stony Brook probably has to win their league in order to be a top 20 win. High Point probably got to win their league. Towson, maybe not, but kind of honestly, because Towson's an unfortunate victim of the fact their own league has just really fallen off in the past couple of years. They're the dominant team in that league now, but no Delaware going forward. So Utah, if Utah wins the A-Sun, yes, Utah's probably give you some. But if not, so I think it's kind of like when you schedule a lot of teams from these one bid leagues, and as we always say, we don't want it. It's not about encouraging that these games don't get played, because I think it's good. But Virginia and Duke, especially Duke, has usually kind of veered in this direction in terms of scheduling. They need more teams to really reach their ceiling. They've got about 7 teams on the schedule, I think. You mentioned them. Maybe Dartmouth's an exception, where you kind of really need them to reach your ceiling. And so that, I think you're right, makes it a little bit more of a – this makes the schedule a little bit like more of a tightrope to walk.
Agree. Second part is like, even though like Duke may have not reached levels that we've kind of expected or like expectation or placed on them, I kind of don't feel like they've ever really bottomed out. Even the 2022 season, which we just love just for the memes. Like, they were third in the ACC, and honestly, but
They were
for
7th in RPI.
Yeah, honestly, but for Joe Bresci's integrity, like they may have gotten, because just how bad the ACC was, just kind of actually did make sense that only one ACC team made it if you look at at it all. But not that Virginia has bottomed out, they've gotten more titles more recently than Duke has, and with probably equal number of Final Four runs. But I do always feel like brand wise, like Duke is maybe 2 levels ahead of Virginia, even though Virginia's really high up there. Just like Danowski's ability to whether or not it always works, that's an open question. But they do get the talent there, and that, forgive me, forget what we were talking about, but this incoming class for Virginia, or is it the rising senior?
Not this incoming class for Virginia,
Millen, right? Coming in
is very good. Millen, obviously, who seems like Patrick Stevens had an article about this, and I will say this did make me positive about Virginia potentially next year. I know you've had questions about the offense. Brendan Millen at attack, drawing the opponent's number 1 pole. He drew in the scrimmage against Georgetown. He drew Ty Banks, which that's for a freshman. That's a tall ask.
Okay.
But I did think him with Sunderland and Colsey at the midfield, at the attack. I like that mix. You got a shooter, you got an off-ball guy there in Sunderland, and then you have Brendan Millen there, and they moved McCabe to the midfield. And I like that quite a bit. I think McCabe, last year we saw it with the ball in his stick too much, just wasn't the right, too many shots. You get him in the midfield, I think you get him on some more advantageous matchups. I think that's a better mix. There's still questions I have about the offense, but that I like that potential orientation of lineup. But yes, this incoming class is good. It's the next year's incoming class that, and even actually the next year, it's 2 years from now. The most recent class is the one that seems rather. I mean, to be fair, the next year's incoming class, they lost 2 guys the last week or so. One to Princeton, and then long committee Ethan Bramoff to Maryland. So that class did take a bit of a hit, but the class 2 years from now, the most recent class for this year, the first time I think Virginia's never got a 5-star recruit.
Yeah.
And listen, obviously this stuff is never precise. I will say one thing that people often mention is that they're like, well, who's determining these are 5 stars? Do the coaches disagree? Listen, guys, the coaches have a pretty big, these guys, they're not straying from the coaches in this. The guys who are highly ranked are the guys who go to the top schools almost always. And they're the guys who are getting the most recruited by the top schools. It's not as if in lacrosse it's just when there's a bigger pool of guys like football, especially in degree basketball, sometimes you can see maybe certain teams are going well, maybe we'll go a different route. That's not to say that these coaches aren't obviously they have things they're looking for. I'm not saying they're going by like I want the number 5 guy, but it's the coaches do have an input to this too, either directly through like talking to them or just indirectly by who are all the best teams are looking at these guys. When you go watch these guys, who's on the sideline? It's all the top coaches. So like, I think it's just worth noting if you're like, like, well, who's deciding this? It's like they're not pulling it out of thin air, and
Yeah.
coaches are having more of an input than you probably think. Again, either directly or indirectly. So yeah, to your point, that was a surprising kind of more shallow recruiting class, especially considering Virginia's history. Duke, meanwhile, yeah, I think I just read the most recent update for the guys coming in next year for 2027. Duke's got 3 of the top 5, which apparently they've never had. Even the years they got Brennan and they had some pretty huge classes, 3 of the top 5 had never done. So recruiting has not dried up one bit for Duke.
And that's what my point. Get maybe more vibes, and so it's not on point to your question about this year. Because it looks like Virginia's got 4 in the top 50, Duke's got 5 in the top 50, so pretty even. Maybe you'll be more apparent in 2027 and beyond. But like, I think that the fact that Duke does have this kind of ability to just like keep it rolling, like no matter what it's going on, Danowski's going to get a class, even if like this class is coming in is good. Like, the one coming right after this is, looks to be like just a mega class, and just feel like the trajectory of the teams, like they're both like kind of maybe gliding because they, haven't met the expectations that they would like. UVA made the Final Four, obviously, like 2 seasons ago, so it's not like they're like a Hopkins or something like that with a drought. But like, just feels like I think Duke, I just have more faith in them bouncing back, and at the very least keeping that separation level between them and Virginia, even if they kind of not have this last season. It was just an overtime win against UVA, so it's not like a dominating fashion or something like that. But just feel like it's a program, especially at least with Danowski still there. Like this stretch has gone over to like 2 like a legendary coach. You got a Hall of Fame coach in Sarja. You had a large part of this run, and even despite Tiffany's success, this hex has still been over this team. So I just feel like the one constant is Dano, and he may have had like a bit of a down year last year, but I just, like I said, just have more faith in that program bouncing back to their levels, and if they get back to their levels, that historically, at least the last 2 decades, has been a notch above Virginia, at least when it comes to the regular season games. So I think if I'm looking forward to the season, I was like, given UVA's schedule, kind of like I said, the importance of the non-con games, and looks to be battling for 4th or 5th in ACC. To not a lot of margin for error, and losing that game to Duke, could be a deciding factor whether or not they make the tournament.
All right, so since Dino's got to Duke, they've made 16 of 17 NCAA tournaments. Their average seed in those 17 NCAA tournaments is 4. On average, they're a top 4 seed every time they make the NCAA tournament. That includes being the number 1 seed in 2007, 2008, 2014, and 2023. So 4 times they've been the number 1 seed. They've been the number 2 seed in 2024, 2021, 2019. I think that gives you 7 times out of 17, almost half, they've been a 1 or 2 seed. Their average seed is 4. Virginia, by contrast, if we just do in that time period, I don't have the exact. I just did the math for Duke while you were going, so I don't have it pulled up for the Cavs. But I mean, you can just kind of go back for it. Virginia has missed the NCAA tournament in that same span 3 more times, or how many? 4 more times. Sorry, Am I right? No, 3. Yeah, 3. They missed the tournament 4 times in that span. Stars missed twice, and Lars missed twice. That's 3 more times that they've just flat out missed the tournament. Then as far as their seed goes, in those first couple of Stars years, they were right pace. They were the 2 in 07, the 2 in 08. They were the 1 in 09, and the 1 in 2010. That was part of that crazy run they had. 2011, even when they won it, they dropped to 7. 2012, they were a 5. 2014 and 2015, those were the 2 years they lost to Hopkins at home in the first round, and they were a 8 and a 7. 2018 at home, they were a 2018 actually they were not home. They were unseeded against Loyola. 2022 they were unseeded. 2020 they were a 6 in 2024. So kind of generally, yeah, a little on the field. And overall, yeah, Duke's. And listen, you mentioned the highs for Virginia are still there. They both won 3 national titles. And Virginia's made a Final Four. Additionally, another like 6, 4, 08, 09, 10, 23, and 24. So that's another 5 times. But yeah, Duke's consistency is almost unmatched, except for probably Maryland and Notre Dame at that time. And Duke, as far as regular season success, attaining a high seed in the tournament might be the best. I know Maryland, kind of late under Tillman, had racked up the high seeds, but the first 5 or 6 years under Tillman, they were kind of could be all over the place. Sometimes it'd be unseeded, sometimes Notre Dame kind of similarly. Of late, it's been really high seeds, but they had some teams that lower. So yeah, you are right on that. I think it's interesting. I think both those teams feels like their seasons are going to hinge on a couple of big results. Is how I'd put it. Like I look at this Virginia schedule, I think 10 wins. Obviously, they're an NCAA tournament team for sure. I think 9 wins, like 9 and 5, and I think they're in pretty good shape. But once you get to if they were like 8 and 6, 7 and 6, it doesn't feel like the type of schedule to me where you can kind of get to that 500 mark or one game above, and the schedule kind of carries you.
Yeah.
It feels like one where they got to go out and really win some games. And do I think they'll be good enough to do that? I think probably. And if you gave me over under 9.5, I'd probably take under. If you gave me over under 8.5, maybe I'd lean above it. If you gave me over under 8, I'd definitely take it. 8.5 is a little more tricky. 9 feels about where I think they might be at. Duke, we have to see their schedule, but their schedule last year was it felt a bit light at times in terms of big marquee opportunities. And they're not playing Princeton this year, who was the best team they played in non-con last year. But that's interesting. We do a lot of talk about the Duke-Virginia thing, and often it hasn't really impacted Virginia, but I feel like this is the year. This past year, I think it did, and I think 2026 is another year where it's really possible.
I think just last point on this, at least for me, like you're absolutely right. The rankings are there's no exact science to this. And, having the number 1 recruit, tip to Tiffany's skills, Glenn Kizin got the number 5 recruit there as well. Robbie Hopper. But
that'll be good.
Duke's got 4 5-star recruits and 5 in the top 29. Virginia's got, big one with Millen and Hopper, but there's no other 5-star, and the next top 30 recruit is I believe 28, so right above Duke's 5th one at 29. So Duke's got 4 5-stars, but 5 in the top 30. You guys got 3 in the top 30 and 2 5-stars. So again, not exact science. They'll have to prove it on the field, but in terms of incoming potential help, and Duke's maybe got a little bit of an edge there.
Now listen, Virginia would say, at least in the past, this past year is a bit different, but in the past, Virginia, where they developed their talent better. And I think they'd be right. I mean, Duke, we can talk. No one recruits on the long arc. We'll do that long arc thing again. Over the long arc, no one recruits better than Duke.
Absolutely.
Teams have their Notre Dame right now is having a moment recruiting. Carolina seems to be on the verge of that. Virginia had it. There was a couple years where Virginia kept getting the number one recruit. They even took some guys away from Duke, and it was like, is Virginia kind of coming for the crown a little bit? Maryland's had some big class in there. Cuse, obviously, a couple years ago had their big class. Princeton is the real kind of newcomer on the block as far as the big success that Madeline's put together the last couple years. But Duke just never wavers. It's a year over year over year, and they're always kind of the team you have to unseat if you want the top class. However, has that really manifested on the field? It's hard. That's always the tricky thing with them. It's not that they're bad. They still can make Final Fours, but in comparison to their only peers, I would say, as far as recruiting goes, have been, and as far as in the kind of neighborhood that they live in, are Notre Dame, Virginia, and Maryland. And those teams have won 6 national championships. They've won 6 of the last 8 national championships, something like that. Duke hasn't won. And now, a fair counterpoint is, hey, somebody's got to win them, so they're maybe just unlucky. But it's also, you'd think with the teams they had, they could have got 1 in that time frame. Maryland got 2, been in the championship game a bunch more. Virginia got 2, Notre Dame got 2. So, yeah, interesting. All right, Safe, what we got up next?
Hopefully this is a fun one. Jake, who needs a Final Four run more? Look at from coaching or as a program. USC or Hopkins?
I think Bresci needs it more. That's tough. I think if Hopkins makes the tournament, God, this is hard.
Can I lay a premise? Give you a little time to think as well. Why?
Sure. Yeah. No. Go ahead. Yeah.
A little plus and minus. Like you could argue, Bresci's got it more proven. Again, I guess we're looking at this from a coaching point. At least I'm forcing it that way. But program-wise as well, like probably they have been to a Final Four more recently than Hopkins for sure. Can also do. Let's see, they didn't make a couple tournaments, but I was going to say, like Milliman has not been he's made 2 tournaments.
Their history is very. I would honestly argue they are, since 2020, they are very comparable programs. Honestly. Yeah. And if I'm looking at the difference is strictly that. Here's the difference. Here's the margins. UNC won a quarterfinal in overtime to get to the Final Four, and Hopkins lost. That's really it. I mean, since 2021, and I know 2020, that's a little harsh because 2020 probably was a UNC Final Four team, and 2020 for Hopkins was, Petro was getting canned either way.
We were clawing with our fingernails to come back.
Since 2021, Carolina's made 2 tournaments and missed 3. Hopkins has made 2 tournaments and missed 3. Carolina's won 2 NCAA tournament games. Hopkins has won 2 NCAA tournament games. Conference record. What was UNC's conference record this year, Safe?
Sorry.
2-2?
Yes. Because they beat Virginia, beat Duke.
Yeah. Lost to Notre Dame.
3-1. Lost to Cuse.
3-1. They beat. No, they lost to Notre Dame in the regular season. Did they beat Cuse?
I guess they beat Cuse. That was the surprise. Forgive me. Yeah, that was
okay. They beat Cuse.
One. That was 14-12 at the Dome.
So then they were 3-1. So that means that they are 10-16 in the ACC the last 5 years. Hopkins in the Big Ten is since 2021. Hopkins is 13-17. Very similar. Granted, some of that is that 2021 is the all Big Ten year where Hopkins goes 2-8.
Yeah.
In the last 4 years, Milliman is 11-9. He's got an 0-5 year in there. He's got a 5-0 year. So I think they're very similar programs. You're right. All right. If Carolina misses the NCAA tournament, I mean, I don't want to like just rip the Band-Aid off here, but if Carolina misses the NCAA tournament, Joe Bresci's out, right?
You know, I love Joe the Boss. Everybody loves Joe the Boss. Like, yeah, like with this team, to not have won a tournament game with Duffy and Young Petro and the absolute pipeline of talent that Bresci's been able to bring or will be bringing in, this season as well. Like it does, it's a lot of riches, having like that kind of talent, but also with that comes the expectations and kind of the petering out they did towards the end of the season, despite having like a great start. You nailed it. You're like safe and fool's gold. Don't jump on it.
The Duke thing, the Duke thing was their. It was the high point of their season. It turns out, and I remember Bresci's celebration after it. It felt like a big April. Those early April games sometimes trick you. I mean, that team's on a run. It's like, no, that was actually it. That was the peak of their season.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, impressive they finished. Yeah, at the end of that. ACC's got to beat that strong Q's team, but just didn't feel like they were going the distance. And it's Richmond showed like that. They should make sure that they didn't. In the first tournament game at home. For the Heels. So I think that, and again, you always got to put it in the context. Like the current contract was signed in 2023. The very next season, they got rid of Metzbauer kind of unceremoniously. The very next season, 2025 kind of had a disappointing end, despite kind of flash at the beginning. So this is essentially like last year of the contract. So
you can't fire the assistants again.
That's a joke, from traffic, write yourself a letter, it's just like with the Khrushchev. He already opened the first letter, he got rid of Mets. So that's maybe time to write the second one. Now maybe time to write 2 letters for Bresci. But that's the thing, it kind of was dangling a couple other times, I don't think they were going to get rid of him before that 2016 one, but there was a string of great regular season success with Flameouts in the tournament. Is this the guy? Obviously got the pedigree and being there for that early success in regular season. It was good that they stuck with him, and then they got this Final Four out of nowhere. And then you got multiple years of just 8 and 8. Get our boy Chris Gray down there, bang. All of a sudden, they flip it. 2020 was a great season. 2021, even better season for them, in terms of recently. Get into the Final Four. Then just kind of all the talk about it's just the guy. But then you got to remember the climate in 2023. Carolina fans are, loyal and stuff like that. They don't jump out, on Twitter a lot. They were out in 2023. They were like, what's going on?
2023 is when it started to percolate.
Yeah, it was
and then 2024 is when it really got humming. And it's like, well, you're a year late. And then 25, decent season. It just feels, you never know for sure. But if that's what it feels like going. On the flip side, if Milliman misses the tournament again, I'm not going to say he's going to get fired, but I don't know. I don't know that he has Bresci has equity built up to kind of, now, does he have enough to get off this? I don't know. Milliman, I don't has the equity to, if the dogs come out, I don't think he's got the equity to fight them off.
And that equity is because you can't have lulls. Everybody has lulls, but with that equity, you kind of ride it. It's when you're at the nadir and haven't had recent success, that's when you're really exposed and Petro, classic example, Penn State, classic example there. That's where you can be kind of really vulnerable. That's the only thing. That's why I'm saying with Bresci, if this season it's similar to last, they make the tournament. I think, they get maybe another 3-year deal, but I think, lives another case. You'd be like, hey, we made the tournament 2 years in a row. Didn't like this result, but we got all these kids, young Petro and Duffy be seniors, that year. So we got this is the team. I got it. You kind of sell it. Don't make the tournament. I know it's maybe it's harsh, but like that would be now 3 years, 3 out of the 4 the years that he hasn't made the tournament, and with this type of team, like it's gonna be hard questions to have to answer.
For the record, I think they'll make the tournament. So here's where I'll say, I think that the more you progressively get up, and it's just the contract, I think, that kind of does this. If Hopkins loses in the first round, depends on the nature of the loss, but if they lose in the first round, I think Milliman he's not fighting the dogs off, like he's not answering all the questions, but it's a reset. You get back in the tournament, still got young talent that you can bring in, some really encouraging recruiting classes coming up for Hopkins. The next one I think is pretty good. The one down 2 years from now, really good. Seems like they're opening up the NIL kind of coffers a little bit.
And some baby players, let's go.
So, like, I think it resets it. Bresci's first round loss, I don't know if that done anything for him. Maybe quarterfinals. Milliman quarterfinal, I think, is great. Was perfect.
We're back. I'm back. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's not the Final Four, but it's okay. We got back. That's 3 quarterfinals in 4 years. We got these new kind of coups coming in. Next 2 years, that's our year. That's gonna be our Final Four run. For Bresci, I think he'd be good with it. I think quarterfinals would be good because I think we're right there. Duffy, Petro senior year, big recruiting. That's real. The only thing is I'll go back to Maryland in 2011 or 2010, where they basically give Dave Cottle the Phil Jackson, Jerry Krause to Phil Jackson. It's Final Four, you're done. And he loses in the quarterfinals and he's done. It's just like the most aggressive ultimatum I think a program's ever given to a coach. Like, dude, make the Final Four if you're out of a job. And he got a 3 seed and lost in the quarterfinals and he was out. And people were like, what the hell? Like, are you crazy? And, for better or for worse, turned out they weren't crazy. If they made the wrong hire, they would have been, but they made the right hire. And the rest is history. So I'll lean Bresci just a little bit, but I think it's neck and neck. As a program, maybe Hopkins a little bit just because they need it bad. I mean, we're at basically the 87 to 05. When Petro won his first title, that's basically the same length of time.
Yeah.
I think you saw with Cuse, just like making that Final Four, what that did for everybody. So I think Hopkins probably needs it a little bit more. But I'll go Hopkins, a program I'll say needs it a bit more, maybe 55, 45, 60, 40. I think as a coach, I'd lean Bresci by a little bit.
I agree.
All right, that was basically kind of one of my questions. Was this a make or break year for North Carolina? I think the answer is yes. So I'll go with my other question I had, kind of along the same lines a little bit. Which program right now has a harder capped ceiling? Or so maybe a different way to phrase this is, which program has a better chance to break through to the next step for them above break that ceiling? Penn State, trying to make it to Memorial Day, maybe win a national title, but at least we'll say make it to Memorial Day. Or Georgetown trying to make a Final Four.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Which one is more likely? Which has an easier chance? What is kind of the tougher ceiling right now? Is it Penn State trying to win the national title, or is it Georgetown trying to make a Final Four? Because I think right now those are the two most evident teams that have a ceiling right now in the sport. Is that but Georgetown's lost 3 straight quarterfinals and 4. They've lost more than that, but under Warren, 3 straight quarterfinals in 4 out of 5 years. Penn State under Tams has made 3 of the last 6 Final Fours, and they've lost in the semifinals each time. Who's butting up against that ceiling harder?
I know I'm a Big Ten homer, so I may get some shots in the con. It's not like better chance, but I honestly more faith in Penn State winning a title
Wow.
because of just they are 3 Final Fours since 2019. Didn't make any of the Memorial Days, but you can definitely argue about the 2023. Just
Yeah.
like being doing that. Watch 20,000, probably like 35 or 38,000. Like
Yeah.
it's throwing things up to the link. I guess that 2 game, yeah, for sure. Just so yeah, I have more faith in them making Memorial Day Sunday. I guess I'll take a little bit off the fastball because I think they're like already been on the cusp and kind of when you're legitimately robbed the 2025, kind of just ran into the buzzsaw there. But just like how they respond in the tournament games, like the 2023 year and even 2025, like, kind of being down, fighting back, even the Duke game in 2023, just like, just shooting until like, the buzzer sounded. Like, I just feel like as a program, it's like, and also with Tams there, like having had so much success and not winning, like just even more that these, kind of kids will buy into, like, I've got to deliver one for him. I think what you and I were talking about all off season and towards the end of, immediately after the Final Four, it's just like, this wasn't a year like, oh, we want to get revenge for 2023 because they didn't get traded. Oh, we want to get to the link because we want to be there for it was just like a Final Four run for Penn State. Just not matter of fact, but it's just like this is kind of what they are expecting now, and this is they're delivering on it. Georgetown, like, listen, no podcast loves Georgetown more than this podcast.
We were there. We were on the corner early.
Oh my God, we was like the Oklahoma Sooners. Like we staked our claim, and we're like, we're not gonna end it like 7 years straight.
Dude, I swear, I picked Georgia. I think us both, but definitely me. 3 or 4, at least like 3 years in a row, I picked Georgetown to make the Final Four in the preseason.
Nothing but
every year.
Nothing but faith in the head coach. I love the logo. I love it. I'm going to be. I already bought my ticket for the February game for Hopkins. Tell my boy we're going to be there. So like, nobody loves the OAS more than us. And you can make a case that like kind of stake bitten and just and a little bit stake bitten, but like the loss in Delaware in the year arguably was their best team that I ever saw. Like honestly, each year they lost to Virginia. If they maybe played another, again, this is like ifs and buts or Kenny's and nothing. Like just a different team than Virginia. Those 2 years where they got especially the 1 year where they got smoked. Like they maybe that would have been a Final Four. The expression on Warren's face this year when losing to Maryland, I think like he was like this may have we avoided the Cavs like like
I think they really I think they shot that a shot.
Yeah, Maryland had like Maryland's Maryland, of course. Like, there's not like we got this like nobody team to play against instead of Virginia, but like it wasn't Maryland 2020, 2021. The teams or 2022 like undefeated regular season. Just a monster squad. It was a good team. Obviously, they made the championship game. But yeah, I think they really thought that this was the year. And like, I think also the nature of where they play is impactful. Like we both say, the Big Ten maybe beating each other up too much for when they get into the tournament. But like, doesn't hurt Maryland. Really doesn't hurt Penn State. Like they're doing their thing when it comes to tournament, especially like since 2019. So it has worked for them, and I think it makes these guys a little bit, stronger, tougher, mentally tougher. That's I think Georgetown, they do great with the non-con, and like we love the size of the Big East, so it allows you to have high quality non-conference team. And it looks like this year they will be scheduled from the teams that we've kind of seen reverse engineering. Like it looks like Georgetown's like going to be going for it this year.
Yeah, what we say about the old expression, like a schedule tells you what a program thinks of like what they're playing for. I think it tells you one, Georgetown like expects this to be a team that can do it. But I also think it tells you a little bit about the Big East.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that like they don't feel like they're getting enough out of. I mean, let's be honest. Now, last year they were out of it in non-con. I mean, Georgetown was. I know Mark Carter friend does the brackets. He's told me this like 2 or 3 times since I haven't. Colgate should have been seated above Georgetown. And look, when you look at just based on the resume, it's true. I mean, Colgate was ahead in RPI. I think they had better wins. That was Georgetown got a helmet, bump on that one over Colgate. Like Georgetown had nothing last year in non-con, and it was all because they won the Big East tournament. However, some of that is like Michigan's a great example. Michigan can have nothing in non-con, but they've been able to pull things out of the Big Ten. The Big East was, if anything, a detriment last year in some ways. I mean, at least in terms of, like, it didn't add. They didn't add anything from those games. And this year, and we'll see. I think Denver will be better. I like where Providence. I think Providence is trending in a positive direction. But Villanova is always Villanova, but it's not. I think they've had better teams, so probably a better teams. You don't know if you're going to get anything. I think it tells you for sure that they think they need several more bites at the apple.
Yeah.
They're going to play. I think they're going to play Richmond again. I think they'll play. They have Hopkins. I think they'll have Notre Dame. It looks like Brown out for Ohio State. And when is the Cuse game? Does it have a date? Because Cuse release dates?
For which game? Sorry. For
Syracuse, Georgetown.
Sorry, I didn't see that.
Times and dates will be announced later.
I love Q's putting the tweet out, but don't put the schedule on the actual schedule page.
I'm looking at shout out the Q's fan boards. They have Georgetown at Sunday, March 22nd. So you never know. Shout out the boards. There's some good stuff. You can find on there. Never exactly 100% sure, but if it is May 22nd, that would be okay. That would maybe it's Richmond out, Cuse in potentially. But like Ohio State is in, and that's an upgrade if it's in the Brown slot. Ideally, you'd play Richmond and Cuse, but Cuse and Richmond be an upgrade. So you'd still have Hopkins, Notre Dame, Cuse, Ohio State. That's 4 top finished games. After that, you do have some Loyola and Penn have seen better, have proved more beneficial, but the schedule has improved nonetheless. Like they got 4 marquee opportunities, and 2 of them in the month of March, where we kind of see February Georgetown can be a slow starter, 2 kind of later in there. So I'll let's get back to your point. But yeah, I think they definitely kind of recognize they need more. And look, we talked about a bunch. They need a higher seed. They got to get out of this 7 or 8 and playing either the national champion or the team who gets to the, team who gets Memorial Day. They got to be back in that 4 or 5 spot.
And I'm saying it's luck Final Four weekend, but just the nature of the event and all that. Like a lot of times, it just can. We always say like the person that loses out the most in Final Four weekend is the team that makes the Memorial Day Monday but loses, the title game because no one ever remembers you really at all. But a lot of times when you get there, like it's this team just having to be there. It's this team like overwhelmed by the moment, stuff like that. But I think for Penn State, I think they can figure it out because as we said, just getting there, it's step one. The quarterfinal. That being the money round, which we've said for almost a decade now, there is a really high. I'm not saying it's higher than Memorial Day games or the Final Four games, but
I'll give you it's better.
A desperation level.
I think it's better. I think it's better played. I think the quality of lacrosse is better in the quarterfinal.
Fantastic, excellent point.
It's a full week of practice in a different way compared to the Final Four, where you have the practice.
Yeah, everyone's talking about you. You got these dinners. The alums want to talk. The cameras, that week.
You interview more. Friday practice for the Final Four is not really. It's like a walkthrough.
The whole thing. Maybe if you've been there, you're out. It's not. But if you go to there, the ambiance being in the NFL stadium, the whole thing, the locker room. There's think to that, and especially if it's your first time or first time in a long time, like it's can impact like how you play. The quarterfinal game is just like we won our first round game. Maybe it was expected being at home. It's just lock in. We got this, and some teams like just I see it like Notre Dame like almost pulled it out and like finished off Penn State. Just like they had Penn State though just had another gear, and it's just like I think because they've gone through this gauntlet. Not that Notre Dame hasn't. They're obviously the two-time defending champion, but it's just like again, there's more evidence of the dog in Penn State. Just like being able to just like look at the two-time defending champion right in the eye, looking to on the cusp of like tying or breaking like numerous records and sending them home. It's just like like that. I haven't. I love Georgetown. Like the shorts. I mean, buy one of those, Iverson era shorts. I love the short stuff. The logo, the school, everything about it. And I always thought like this could be like a rising power and kind of change things in the Mid-Atlantic. Kind of like how Hopkins and Maryland. This could be the thing that takes some energy away from Virginia, like a school in DC of this prestige. Like it's all the trappings Lacrosse parents want. Like it's just right there, for the taking. I just never, and I say all those nice things to say, I just never have seen that. Maybe the Notre Dame regular season win, but again, that was like kind of evenly. I'm talking about like, just real desperation. I think that's where it really comes down to, like that quarterfinal game. It's just like, how far are you willing to go? And I just haven't seen that a little bit in the Virginia 2 years ago.
I think even in the Maryland game this year, I thought, but it was, that game kind of felt like Maryland that was a 1 or 2 goal game the whole way, and I felt like Maryland could have played them until midnight, and Maryland would have kept them at 1 to 2 goals for like 6 hours.
Yeah, it was just like a marathon race with just some guy faster. Yeah, well, and you surge up, and he just like surges fast, and then just right back to just like, let's say, like I'm thinking of that Virginia game 2 years ago, and now just like they didn't win it, but like shooting until the clip's empty. You know what I mean? Like that type of like fight, like and I just that's what you really do need to win that. Again, the Final Four is just like what it could be. Penn State could just be lucky. I put that in quotes because I don't think that makes the Final Four is good. But like a year where like when Hopkins beat Delaware in 07. Not knocking the Blue Hens, but being there for the first time, there could be a Cinderella team that somehow Penn State gets matched up, and then it's just like a little bit of a better opponent to get into that Memorial Day Monday game. And again, it's a little bit more faith in Tams and them able to, get over that, quarterfinal hump, which is by itself like kind of, Mount Everest almost for many programs. And I just haven't seen, and it's like they've had so many shots, at the quarterfinal and just hadn't got there with like Penn State, like, they've made 3 Final Fours and never made a Memorial Day Monday, so you can make a argument there, but it hasn't been 7 straight Final Fours. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I think everything you're saying is right. I think if this is just Memorial Day, I do think it's probably fair. If we frame it to national championship, though,
I
think like
then that's 2 games. 1 goal.
That's 2 games. That's the same number of games you just won. In the past 2 weeks, you got to win them again in 3 days. Maryland's the proof example of this. The fourth is the hardest to get. I think it's kind of this whole thing like the easiest thing to do, not the easiest thing to do, but it's one thing going from okay to good or bad to good. It's a whole other thing going from good to great. And listen, I think Penn State's had great teams. Like 2019 was a great team. 2023 was a heck of a team. This team was, I don't even think it was spectacular. I thought it was a good team. They made the Final Four. That deep water, it's just deep waters, man. Like think Notre Dame's won 2, Virginia's won 2, Maryland's won 2. The other 2 teams, you've got Yale, Shea with Ben Reeves and Chris Fake and Tyler Warner, and I mean, like Tewaaraton winner. It took Andy Shea's best team ever to win the national championship. Cornell, C.J. Curse scoring like 6 goals on Memorial Day, having one of the all-time great seasons, Tour-Time winner, a generational player, a host of other seniors, Michael Long, 6th year, Hugh Kelleher, White Nuts playing great lacrosse on Memorial Day weekend. That's what it took for Cornell. There are teams right now who are Maryland can expect to get there. Notre Dame maybe can expect to get there. Virginia, at least in the past, expect to get there. These other teams, man, it takes like everything to come together and really click. It's like you never want to say this, and I'm not saying it's the case, but what if for Penn State that was 2019 and it just never happened? Like everyone always thinks like we talk about this all the time. We'll get it next year.
Yeah.
You know? Next year will be the year. You know, you never really think of the moment. What if you just like
that was
like
it.
the Bills? The Bills, those 4 are the great example. The Bills lose the first one to the Giants. They get there 3 more times. The real chance was the first one. They missed the field goal to win. After that, they got kind of. But it's like you never know. Sometimes where it's like, yeah, that actually was your chance. And
we say that all the time. Like sometimes we say like you get there a year early, but maybe that is the year. And you have to do that year, or the other years come in subsequent and like won't like you'll actually proceed and never get over that level. No, if your point, if it's 2 games to win the title, then yeah, I'm going to give it to Georgetown. If it's making Memorial Day Monday or Georgetown, then I think kind of even, but still lead.
Penn State has been closer to winning a semifinal in 23 against Duke than Georgetown has been to winning a quarterfinal. That's, I think, the tough thing for Warren is like you haven't really been. I mean, this year was kind of close, but not really. There hasn't been one where you're like Hopkins. I hit you at 24, but like that's one for Hopkins where you're like, yeah, I mean, we had that one. We should have won it.
Devastated.
You know,
absolutely devastated.
Rutgers did get there, but even like Rutgers had the 22-21 against Carolina. It's like, man, they should have had that one. Georgetown hasn't really had that one where you're like, yeah, they should have won. They just kind of lose. A part of that against the draw, but they haven't been able to play their best on that weekend for sure. I think that's the case, and I think they need a better draw. But I think it's a fascinating question. I went back and looked actually. In 21, 4 out of the 5 of us picked Georgetown to make the Final Four.
They've been the darling of this podcast for 5 years. Like,
in 22, every one of us picked Georgetown to make the Final Four. That should have been the year. They should have made it in 22.
That was the year.
In 23, even after all that, after losing the first round Delaware, I still picked them to make the Final Four. And then by 24, I was like, I had to put my hands up. For the record, I think I might have to go back to the old me this year. I think I might pick them to make the Final Four.
Let's do it,
yeah. Yeah, but we'll see. All right, Safe. That was kind of all mine. Do you have any one before we get into our next kind of?
Yeah. Just throw this one out. We could probably just run it through quick. What criteria? You can go either way. What criteria that is not used by the committee do you feel they should use, or what criteria would you like either relaxed or rescinded or revamped? You don't have to pick one for all that. Just one or the other.
I think I would like to see maybe the top. The top 20 thing with wins is a little. I'd maybe go to a 25.
Yeah.
I just think I don't know. Now listen, there could be an argument that this is going to happen. I think it's probably fair. It probably happens no matter what you do it. The like tilting over teams, kind of like I'd maybe go like a little more loose on the, top 5 win, top 10 wins. I just don't know the difference, the way that we put on that in comparison to the difference in the teams. I don't know is as strong. I think that's something. I don't know for sure how I feel about that. Here's one that I discussed with Mark a couple of weeks ago, or maybe months ago, might have been. I don't know if I mentioned it with you. That I would like to maybe consider. I'd have to flesh it out, and I don't know if I want to commit to it. If you are under 500, the highest you can rank in RPI is 21st.
Okay.
So if you are under because Virginia and Hopkins were kind of examples of this last year, where they were not eligible to make the tournament, but yet they count as these significant wins for teams. If you're not eligible for make the tournament, I think, you know what, we're going to cap you at 21. Like, should it really be a significant win if you're not actually eligible to make the tournament? 500, if you're 500, all right. Like, I think that's something I think about. I don't know how much of an impact it really has. Like this year, if you took Virginia and Hopkins out, you would move Dartmouth and Rutgers in. No, Yale too. Yale was 20. Yale was 5-8. Virginia was 6-8. Hopkins was 6-8. They were all in top 20. Take those three out. You replace them with Dartmouth, St. Joe's, and Fairfield. Here's why I think I kind of like this maybe a little bit. I think it gives a better chance potentially for some of the mid-majors.
Oh, yeah.
Too. Like if St. Joe's and Fairfield count as top 20 wins, like guess who was 25th? Siena. It's kind of, I think, including, it gives maybe more of a, because we talk about the balance of, and this is what I hope if we can put the schedule pod together and interview some of these coaches, I'd like to know is the balance of like who you play. It probably behooves you to play Virginia and Hopkins. Or like, and listen, Virginia and Hopkins in some years are going to be better, obviously. I think they'll both be better in 2026. But, or yeah, like whoever. It behooves you to play these like underachieving Power 3 teams. What if you could actually have more of a assurance that some of these mid-major conference champions or conference runner-ups are going to be in the top 20?
Yeah.
Then maybe St. Joe's and Fairfield, these teams get to play more of the top teams, get more opportunities to potentially win. And maybe for some of these mid-major conference champions, they have a better chance maybe at a home game if they can add in a couple, top 20 wins. So I don't know how I feel about that for sure, but it's an idea that I was thrown around and I kind of like. It does kind of bother me the attention we give to some of these, not really attention we give, but that there's value in that win. When to me, it's like, you're not eligible to make the tournament. Like, why? I don't know that you should really count as a win of consequence. But by the criteria, they are a win of consequence if you're in the top 20. Okay. And then I go back and forth on the time of victory thing. I do think that I get the idea that the more recent it matters more because that's the team you more. Because I do think in Crosse, I do think it's true. The season, the weather, all of it, April, May is significantly different than February, 100%. However, I feel like we often see some teams win a couple games in late April, and we're like, "Oh man!" And then they like lose in the first round. It's like, well, was that really reflective of the team they are? I don't know. So I do think that it is generally more probably indicative of the team you are, but I also do think that if we do that, it can maybe just lead to like recency bias run like crazy. And maybe we like, I think in some cases, maybe it's like a check on recency bias. And like, it does kind of help be like, hey, like those wins do still matter. It is still important that you get wins across the board, so I think I kind of okay with that one. But yeah, the RPI thing of 500, that I like that one potentially as an idea.
Definitely. I mean, do like that. I was just my thing when I think of the question was just with you, like the 21st team being the same as the 61st, like our.
Yeah, they're either make one more bucket. 21 to 25 or 21 to 30.
Yeah, it's 2025 to be like a quality
and
one.
Add that in, or maybe relax the like emphasis. And to be fair, maybe some years they do. Yeah, you're right. Like 21, beating Dartmouth or beating St. Joe's should not be of the same consequence as beating 3-10 Brown or 3-11 Loyal. Like that's, and also the loss.
Yes.
Losing to one of those teams should not have to pay the same penalty as anybody else.
That's why I said, yeah, definitely. Like it's absolutely. Yeah, I think there could be some more flexibility there. I mean, I would love for them to no longer have seating due to travel constraints. Which
Yeah, that's the obvious one. Yeah.
But, yeah. So that's one.
All right, we'll wrap up here, and with a fun little segment. I got 5 either ors. I think these are pretty good. Who would you rather? If I give you one team, you can bet on one team this year. They make the Final Four, win the national championship. Say if you're doing your preseason, let's say odds irrelevant. So like I know the odds, some of the odds came out today, but I'll be like, let's do independent of odds. Just kind of your feeling on the team. If
Right.
I said you can bet on one of the, if you're doing your preseason, plays, like I can put my money behind one of these teams to make the Final Four national. Like I'm putting behind this is my team for this year. Who are you going with? I'll start with. Let's kind of ease our way in. And I kind of like this one because it was a little bit more off the board. Incorporated a team we have talked about more recently on this pod, but not a lot. Save, you're putting your money behind Dartmouth or Michigan? Who you got? The Big Green or the Wolverines?
Another coach that we were early on the corner of Kerwin, with to kind of like love what he's been doing up there in Dartmouth. But if I had to choose between the two, I just got to. I was going to say Michigan with a strength of conference, but I was like, honestly, you could make an argument that the Ivy may be the number 2 conference, or maybe even make a case for number 1, the defending national champion, and Princeton in there. I still go with Michigan just because while they haven't gotten over the hump and they haven't had like a full season where like it's not just the Maryland game being the Super Bowl, they have made the tournament, they have done kind of frisky in there. In again, branding and all that stuff. Like I just feel Michigan, it's kind of right there for on the cusp of like making got a quarterfinal run. So I'm going with Michigan, but I respect everything that Kerwin's doing up in Dartmouth, and I definitely see them making the Ivy League tournament this year, and potentially making the NCAA tournament. So nothing against Dartmouth at all or Kerwin, what he's doing up there, but yeah, I got to stick with the Wolverines on that one.
Should specify this is just for this year, so we're just looking at 2026 alone. I think I might go Dartmouth.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I just look at these teams were pretty similar last year. Offense almost identical, 30.9, 30.7 just offensive efficiency. Face-offs, Dartmouth the hedge better, 51-48. Goalie play, both strong, 59-57. Michigan's defense was the real feather caps they leaned on. But I just look at Michigan really struggled to score goals last year, and their defense kept them along. But now they lose Ryan Cohn, Aiden Mulholland, Lucas Stanap, losing a lot of the big hitters from that offense, and already kind of struggling to score goals. Also, new offensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah.
Scott Peter going to Rutgers. I don't know, and I look at. I just feel like they're going to have. I don't think they're going to get worse, but they feel kind of similar-ish to me to where they were in 2025. In Dartmouth, I do think, I think Ivy League tournament is kind of on the cusp for them. I can see it happening. But like they bring back Thomas Power, their leading scorer. A couple freshmen really contributed. Alex Jesse, Tyler Julin. I like Kerwin as an offensive mind. I think he can. He's got the bona fides there. Positive momentum. Like they played they played the top teams not even close. Like they played Cornell really close there. They played Princeton really close. Little not encouraging. They got blown out by Harvard and Yale. But I don't know. I think the fact that if I'm thinking of them scaling up, the fact that they can play the big teams tells me that like I think as they get better, they'll be able to beat Yale. I think they can maybe play with Harvard, but the ability to kind of scale up, the fact that they can compete with these teams. I think they played Cornell close a couple years ago as well. I don't know. I don't think either of these teams makes the tournament, but like, could I see Dartmouth in a Ivy League championship? Probably not, but maybe. Michigan. I mean, Michigan. I should maybe with Michigan's track record in the Big Ten, the odds of them making the Big Ten championship, probably pretty good. But I don't know. I just think the Big Ten. Maryland's gonna be great. I think Hopkins is gonna be better. I like Rutgers quite a bit this year. Ohio State has done some good things in the portal and getting Marinier back. I think they'll fall off. I think they'll have a good team. Penn State's gonna be Penn State. I think Michigan's got uphill sledding in the Big Ten. I think they come in right. They feel like sixth to me coming the preseason. Whereas Dartmouth in the Ivy, I could see as high as third. I really could. I could see them finishing third in the Ivy. I think top two is too much breakthrough, but I think seeing third. So I think it might go to Big Green.
I like it.
All right. We'll do another kind of ease our way in here before we get in the deep end and finish up. Ohio State or Duke?
Final four?
And just who would you put, your money behind? Who, if you got to back one of them this year, who are you backing?
I mean, gotta go Ohio State. I think just defensively, they bring back a lot.
Yeah.
Marion, come back would be clutch for them. They got my boy Russell.
Yeah.
Can't wait for Ohio State's medical staff to just have him at like full health and he's dropping 40 goals like in April. I would just be absolutely. I mean, a Mighty Ducks joke.
Might just be horse placenta and just get out there.
Whatever it takes, just get out there. And I know I'm a sucker for the Buckeyes, but similarly, like I think the bitter end to last season after such a objectively great regular season, won the Big Ten tournament, the long winning streak, to Maryland, but then kind of like regrouped and to win the Big Ten, like kind of got smoked by the two-time defending champion at home. Not the greatest look, of course. I'll say that. But again, like it's just like a reset. I love that word that you said. It felt like a reset for the program. Just like, we could make some points about the scheduling that they had, and maybe that kind of inflated it to a degree. But I think like when that team was playing like at their peak during the season, they were like a really effective team, and I think defensively, just like they really can cause a lot of fits for teams. And so I like, if I'm a Ohio State fan, I'm kind of looking like kind of hopeful for this season. It's kind of return to postseason should be like kind of bare minimum expectations, and quarterfinal, Final Four run is not something that it's outlandish given the talent that they have and what who knows what you get with Russell, but you could potentially get a second team All-American if he's back to fully healthy at that team.
That's a little. It is a little much.
That's a little blue colored. All right. Honorable mention, All-American. But again, another weapon on the team.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it for sure.
So for me, I don't understand the stars are aligned for a run, but it felt like, if anything, maybe that the way that the season ended, like maybe put some emphasis into the off season and like focusing. Like I think last year was just like a return to form or return to like what Ohio State like wants to see as their standard, and now it's just like, hey, let's make our own standards, like an our own expectation. We want to get to the Final Four. that type of thing. I think all the teams at that level want to get there, but it's certainly realistically, I think after you look at last season, you go into the offseason, I think Ohio State players and fans are like, hey, Notre Dame game, we got smoked for sure. But, they did beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame during last season. And so it's just not that they couldn't play against them, just what we kind of say, tournament time, this degree of intensity that goes up a couple notches. And if you haven't been in the tournament for a bit like Ohio State has, they just got caught, sleeping a little bit to an extent. And just a really bad day shooting, a bad day at goal. But I think those things could be motivating as well. So, but with Duke, again, kind of a walk card. Just are they just going to just get almost so much talent that they just can't lose? Not lose. They go undefeated type thing, but just back to Duke that we know, top of the ACC, high seed, quarterfinal, at least team for Final Four potential. And so that announced he can get that isn't his bag. For Dano, he can do that, and he has done that often. So for me, it's just a little bit hesitant because Duke's just kind of that standard bearer, and I was if any team that can kind of just bounce back to form and just keep the pipeline going with talent and kind of regroup, I think Duke can. But it's just they have left themselves a lot of questions of what they do with the talent when it gets there. Now, where does that leave the Blue Devils going in? Like I said, I'd still go with Ohio State as just everything that they're bringing back, the known knowns, as Rumsfeld used to say. So I think Duke just has unknown, more unknown unknowns out there than Ohio State does. I think they're kind of really focused and ready to go. I think it could be a disappointment this season for sure. Nick Myers is known to do that. Big Nick.
Oh yeah, so that's I guess what I put it to you. If I put it to you this way, Ohio State hasn't won an NCAA tournament game since 2017. Duke has won NCAA tournament games in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2021, 2023, 2024.
Yeah.
The way I was thinking about this at first was I think Duke has the higher floor. Even if Duke's season doesn't go right, I feel they're still in the mix. Whereas Ohio State, I feel we've seen where if their season doesn't go right, they're out of it. And I was so maybe Ohio State has the higher ceiling because they've got the piece on the back end, Fayok, Van Buren, Colin Brown. Then I'm the ceiling thing. Well, Ohio State hasn't won an NCAA tournament game in it could be 9 years. I don't know. I think if you ask me, is it more likely Ohio State's got a better chance to be seeded higher in the NCAA tournament, I think. Ohio State maybe got a better chance to get a top 4 seed. They did it again. They did it last year. I don't know. I might just leave Duke. I think with Ohio State, is their defense going to be better than it was last year? They were 21.9% adjusted defensive efficiency. That is by far the best that Nick Myers has had in the last 10 years. It's good as some of the defenses they've had. They were third in adjusted defensive efficiency. They were 9th the year before. I believe they'll be a top 10 defense again. I have no real question about that. But can they be better? It's hard to feel like. I mean, they were just so good. And they do lose some pieces at the short defensive midfield spot, Langermeyer, Ari Allen. I don't think it can be better. I think they can be as good. It can be better. And that's the thing is, can the offense be as good? I think the attack, Marinier, Haas, Melendez, that's a really nice group at attack. I like that. You got Haas as a ball carrier. Melendez, you got to respect as a ball carrier. Marinier, you got to basically put a poll on him just because he's a shooter. And you kind of got to respect that. After that, though, what about the midfield? There's really no returning production at the midfield. It's just, they got Liam White back, a freshman, 11 goals. It's just, and that team, the midfield often drives a lot of it because they do a lot of dodging from up top. They do a lot of isolating one-on-one, trying to draw slides. They clear it out. Their offense last year was the third best the Myers has had there in the last 10 years. The best one was 2022 when they had Jack Myers. I don't know if they can be as good offensively. Maybe. Just feels like to me hard to me seeing them being as last year so much went right. 14th in offense, 3rd in defense, 2nd in save percentage, 27th in faceoffs. Maybe not as classic good for Ohio State. That's kind of the Ohio State recipe for how they get it done. And so I don't know, faceoff this year with Jack Oldman. I think they'll be pretty good. I think they'll be a good team again. I still don't know if they can replicate last year. I don't know if it comes together. If it does, it'll be a heck of a coaching job by Myers. So I think maybe I lean Duke, but sorry, a lot of that's just history. I do think Ohio State's got the pieces to be a better team for sure. Maybe some of that's just pieces. All right. 3 more. We'll get out of here. Maybe try to make these a little quick. North Carolina or Georgetown? We've kind of talked about these teams a lot, so
I have faith in the Hoyas of making the tournament, of winning a tournament game.
So for Georgetown, ceiling.
The talent's there for North Carolina for a high ceiling.
Yeah, if it clicks, it's gonna click.
It's gonna pop. Yeah, that's the thing. They could, because they already had a pretty strong regular season. Highly ranked throughout most of it. Kind of petered a little bit at the end. A nice comeback win against Cuse at the end of the regular season. So it was there. More talent coming in, another year for young Petro and Duffy. Then I could kind of see something really coming together special. But just inconsistency of I got faith in to make the tournament and at least win one tournament round game. I got Georgetown.
I kind of agree. I'd probably maybe lean Carolina. I don't know. I think I trust Georgetown more. The consistency. I think Carolina's the talent if that clicks all together. I guess there's some questions. Who plays goalie? Georgetown has Anderson Moore, who can be up and down, but when he runs hot, he runs hot.
Mm-hmm.
Defense. Georgetown's got the bigger names on the defense side of the ball. Carolina's defense will be very good. It was very good last year. Kind of the no-name defense. Petro did a really good job with that unit. Should be more healthy this year, which will help them even more. I think they're pretty strong on that ball. Midfield, that's kind of the question for UNC. I think they'll kind of run maybe Young there, but they got some young names that could, if they could hit. At attack, it's Duffy and Petro versus the Connor brothers for the Hoyas. Both these teams I think these teams are really even. I think across the world. I think that's going to be a really intriguing kind of following those two teams. I think they're right there. All right, Safe. Here's a good one for you. The last 3 national champions: Cornell or Notre Dame? Who are you backing this year?
Notre Dame does not bring much. Cornell obviously loses the big dog. But they also don't bring much back out of it. Both 55th in Lux Power's ranking of returning production, and Notre Dame's 65th. Now, I think Notre Dame is kind of like the team in lacrosse right now, of top of the heap, but however you want to describe that. So I think I just have more faith in them because of what Corrigan's done over these last year. Yeah, like they didn't make the championship game last year, but they won the two prior, and like they were, essentially like a goal or two away from making a third straight Final Four appearance. So Cornell, like again, like can't deny what they did, but it also felt like one of the few times where let's get the band together actually does work and causes a cross. I mean, that one last ride, has happened in a lot of teams. I'm thinking of like, that Penn State team post COVID, even though they didn't have Grant. The Hobby 2024 team, kind of like had everything together to make it happen. Plenty of times where it doesn't work, but Cornell, it did work. And, testament to coaching and Busick, my opinion, best young coach out there. Not really a hot take, obviously. It's two championships.
Just won the national championship.
Like, hey, here's a take. You guys aren't here.
Honor Busick. I think this guy knows what he's doing.
2 title game appearances in 2022. Yeah, exactly. I'm on a limb there, Jake, just by myself. So I know what the anger the guy Lax Scots, but yeah, just we can maybe partial to the Irish, and but yeah, I just feel like the team that I think is going to get back to the Final Four after missing it. I put some money behind Notre Dame just as a program strength. Again, they lost a lot, and it's not like the COVID super team and stuff like that to help push. You can at least make an argument for that first title and to an extent the second one. And that's no longer there. But again, I just feel like they are kind of a glamour team in college lacrosse. So like getting the recruits, getting just the energy behind the team. I'm looking at their top. They got 4 top 14 recruits coming in, a 5th at 21, so 5-star recruits. They got the 36th ranked for 6. They got 2. So like almost like 8 recruits in the top 50 that are coming in this season. Yeah. So again, just echoing like they are the team now. I mean, that's different. We know this better in college football. There's this team that just kind of own like either an era or like a period of even 3 or 4 year dynasties type of thing. Yet Notre Dame is that squad. They got Jake. Jesus Christ! I mean, they got like so many kids in the top 71. It's like it's an entire team coming in of top 100 recruits.
They're on just a roll. I mean, and for this year's team, it's like guys in the right spot. Like they lose Will Lynch. One, they brought in the D3 guy. His name's escaping me right now, but I think from Washington Elite, who was one of like the best face-off guys in D3. But they also have Aiden Diaz-Matos coming in, who's the top face-off recruit. They got Teddy Wiley coming in, one of the top, attackmen. They need
young Faison coming in early, coming in hot and early.
Yeah, that's the intriguing thing. I personally,
13, Jake, 13 in the top 79. It's not even just like they still got almost like a 20% of the top 100 that they still have room for. They're like, oh, we're good. We'll stop at the 79. Yeah, they're 78. Forgive me.
Freaking insane. It's every single recruit but one. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that before. It's unfathomable. And of course, Faison was the number 1 recruit in 2026, and he reclassified. He's 14th in this class. I don't know how much. I think anything they get out of him is a bonus. It's just a bonus, to be honest with you. I think mostly it's because he wants to play with his brother, and I think this is probably Jordan's last year playing lacrosse. But that is a question. Like for Jordan Faison, I think we saw it last year. Like the long football, Ryan was on that early. Like the long football, and then to lacrosse, and then he was also doing spring football too. Like I think that was just too much. He was nowhere near the same player. Now he's playing football again. Notre Dame might have another playoff run. Right into lacrosse. I don't know. And you're replacing your entire attack. And I think we talked about this. There's just something. It's different when they don't have a Kavanaugh. It's always been different. It's always the attitude. I think their offensive ceiling, the way the ball moves, obviously the ride, is much different when there's not a Kavanaugh there. And who's that? I'll go Notre Dame though. I think the talent on the roster you talk about is just ridiculous, and it's a team that, with the talent wise, can be a Final Four team again. I think it would take a lot for Cornell to be a Final Four team. I mean, if they make Final Four again, Connor Busick is like, and we're I mean,
he's a good coach. Not a lot of people are saying that.
He knows what he's doing. So I would just go Notre Dame. I think Cornell will be good. But I think it's more top 8 type.
It's just a disgusting amount of riches. 5 top 21 recruits.
It's nuts. The depth is the crazy thing. That everyone in the class is like a top 100 guy. I mean, look, it might be a hard problem to have. It's a good problem. It's a good problem. Finding roles for guys.
Yeah.
Everyone is a top, I mean, that's why Corrigan makes the money he does, and that's why he's the coach he is. Being able to say, "Hey, you're going to be a short stick defensive midfielder." But that's something that
that's what Dana used to do, though, man.
Tillman's done it.
Do you want to get on the field or do you not?
Yeah, exactly. And I think for the record, I'm not saying they'll have a problem with it because listen, it's Notre Dame, and there's always someone coming to take your spot, and they know what they're doing. But it can be when you have all those guys who are so good at their position. And it's a little different going another guy being like, "Hey man, you were a good offensive player in high school. We're gonna make you a short stick teammate." Or, "Hey, you were a good, long pole," or we're gonna put a long pole in your hands. It's a little different when it's guys who were that good in high school, who all want to play offense or want to be, some of that. I just think about finding these roles to these guys. I'm not saying it's a problem again. Look, you want to play for Notre Dame, get on the field and play. Take your role. But it could be a little different. Difficult to find all those guys. But yeah, you're right. It's an embarrassment of riches. It's why I think I still we did the preseason thing. I think we still have them 5th or 6th. It's they're losing so much, but the talent level there is just so probably higher than anyone, just across the board. What they have coming back, still the younger guys, what they're bringing in. All right, Safe, last one. See if we can get this in under tight 2 hours. This is the fun one. Syracuse or Princeton?
Fridays are going to be hot in Jersey again, Jake. Looking forward to that Cuse game.
Yeah, it's back. Friday night
in Jersey.
You gonna be there Friday night, too?
I'm there almost every week. I've heard Saturdays and Sundays there. I thought I saw Mitchell one time and Madeline. There's this Jules Pizza place, right up at Nassau, right off of Nassau. Thought I saw Princeton Lacrosse. That was a good sign. Syracuse. I think.
Oh man!
As much as I love Tristan Madeline, another coach that really early on.
Matt Madeline.
That was my guy. That was my guy. I think that one. The only thing that makes me hesitate is I think losing the way they did to Princeton, or losing the way they did to Syracuse in the title, on the cusp of a Final Four, and then seeing Cornell, a conference mate, then win the title. Maybe that does something, feelings and stuff like that in terms of how they get after it in the off season. But it's tough because I think the thing with Cuse is I think again maybe similar, band together, all coming together. We just got that run to Final Four, reset the program, quieted a lot of doubters, that type of thing. I don't foresee a fall off, and also because of the ACC, I don't see a resurgence. And if anything, Cuse is probably the team to beat in the ACC in terms of preseason thing. I don't see anybody else there that's having a really solid claim to the preseason number 1 for the conference. Again, that's the difference. I think these couple of years, whether or not they got it done. Cuse was kind of the hunter, you know what I mean? Like trying to get to that level or back to what they consider. It is different where now you're now the Final Four team. Like now you're not like Cornell where everyone's going to give you your best shot because you're the defending champ. But it's like to an extent, you know, again, Cuse is another one of these glamour teams that already attracts a lot of attention. That game's circled on many teams' schedule. Like, oh, then it's also a barometer of like, where are we? This is a team that made the Final Four last year, brings a ton of talent. If we can beat them, then we could, that's legitimacy for our claims or for expectations. So I think it's just going to be different. Like it's same thing like we kind of said with Georgetown for a long time. We're like, oh, the darling of the team, like that darling stuff wears off, and then eventually teams will just want to beat you, like just anyone else. If anything, they want to beat you more because of the attention and you'll be getting. So like I think it's just going to be a different animal this year for Syracuse than before. Before just like a lot of naysayers, are they going to do it? It's gate like over his head, that type of thing. And they kind of sound a lot like last year. The dome was rocking. It was the 80s were back. The 80s, early 90s, not early, just 80s and 90s were back at the dome. Even to extent the Desco years too. It was almost like a resurgence of what Cuse fans were open to see, post Desco. But again, it's going to be different now. Like now that being able to come sneak up, you can't really sneak up that much like Cuse, your glory team in college lacrosse. But to an extent, it'd be like, is this team cut out for that? For the long run. And then last year they showed that they were. So for me, like I kind of see them as a Final Four. I'll put them in my preseason Final Four when we actually do our expectations and stuff like that. But I just do think it's just going to be a different animal than it was last year, and not to be like less fun or more fun, but it's just like there's something to the climb. Getting to that goal, and again, all these teams that have real goal at that level, the real goal is to win the title for sure. But like a return to the Final Four for the first time in a long time for QCL was a big deal. And, I think like they just have a great team coming in, but it's just going to be different. Now it's just like, expectations aren't before we're like, all right, is this team, legit? Now it's just like, oh, okay, you are legit. We expect you to win a title. And that's just different. Like short gate will get them prepared and everything. And I have a lot of faith in, the weapons that they have. But again, I just think it's going to be different. It's going to be a different year for them. And even having said that, I kind of have just a little. No, you know what? No, I just talk myself out of it. I'm sure
God.
I just talk myself out because
the safe talking out of it is one of my favorite things. The more you go,
I get to that kind of no. It's like one more step. I was like, no, back it up, back it up.
That's too good. The way you were talking, I was just like, it feels like he's kind of like not like he's going to talk himself out of this. And as soon as I boom,
and it gets to a point, it's just like, oh shit, there's a lot of points on that side. And like, getting parcel, the location, I just fond of the team. I haven't been at good amount of games at 1952 Stadium. That vibe, I always tell you, it's just like tax cuts are coming. Where the teams are when the fans are really they're feeling it. Never seen people that happy, rich people that happy before. But it's just a fun place, and like I think that Madeline's got a team. Like I think like this is I think losing culture is going to be huge. I think just such a big pillar, but like they just bring in so much back, and I think to an extent you could also make the mistake like this team, it was right there, and if anything, you could make a case that they shouldn't have lost that game to Syracuse last year, right. And there's like they were just like every other highly ranked team, right in that top three. I was making a case for them to be the number one seed, as late as late April. I think that's why I just talked myself out because it's not like Princeton was like an also ran last year. They were the team last year.
That's what makes this fun. Makes this so fun.
And I think I just think it's going to be. My floor for Cuse is quarterfinals.
Yeah, I agree.
So I just think like just got way too much talent. they saw that road and they were able to traverse it to the Final Four last year, and I think that's huge for a program, and just the players themselves are just like, okay, we're confident that we can do that because we just did it last year. So again, there's no guarantees and stuff like that, but yeah, I think like just the different nature of this season and the expectation that will probably be heaped upon them that weren't there these previous years, like just like I said, I'm part of this. A lot of part of this game is just mental, and that slow start, a little bit fluttering offense, or it's not flowing. The kind of was clicking I don't see them having an abysmal season or anything like that. I think at worst, it'll be like second team in the ACC and the quarterfinal run. That's like I said, their floor in my opinion. So, but yeah, I think Princeton haven't got there in 2022, and just kind of snaking and making the tournament, being kind of exceeding expectations sometimes, especially with the injuries and stuff like that. And then this year, just last year, so many things were going so well, and then to lose at the to Cuse in that fashion, and I think that will have a lasting impact. And, it's maybe galvanize them into actually seeing through again back to the Final Four like they did in 2022. So yeah. Last second, audible, I'm going to go with Princeton.
I think I lean Princeton. I mean, the thing is, even losing McAfee, think about it, they lost their best offensive player, or at least most highly touted, most experienced, however you want to put it. They're still bring back 74% of their overall production. They still bring back 73% of their, as Lacrosse has, offensive expected goals added. 75% of their points, 84% of their assists. I mean, even lose Maxi, that's crazy. Here's kind of where I think Princeton's defense, I know Adam's kind of negative on Princeton's defense. I can see, I do see that. I think that game, Spallina, ate Molshine up in that game last year. And they lose Bath and Molshine coming in. I just think I've seen them play good defense before. I've seen them have good defense. I think it's possible. I think they've just kind of over-indexed off. I just think I don't think their issues are personnel based. And they do lose some personnel, but I think they have talent back there. I just think it needs to be a refocus and a more we're not gonna get trapped in these shootouts. We're not gonna I think they that Cuse game. It was just that game got crazy, and Prince was like, "All right, we're just gonna shoot our way out of it." And I just think they kind of have, because they have so much offensive talent. They've just decided with that we're just going we're just gonna shoot. And that Cornell game. Remember, I kept mentioning all year. And listen, Cornell was the best team, so it didn't matter. But I was like, you weren't gonna beat Cornell trying to outshoot them. And Prince was like, well, what if we just try to get to 21st? And Cornell would just score 6 goals in a row. It's
yeah.
Maybe not. I like Princeton's athletes in the middle of the field. I think they've got some good stories. I just think they need to become more of a complete complementer of the Crosse. And I think that, to me, more is just their systems, and it's more game planning, and it's more just a re-emphasis. I don't think they don't have the talent. And it's honestly, I think Cuse would be a good defensive team as well. But I like Princeton's offensive talent more, and I like their ability if they can refocus more. My worry with Cuse is, and I'm with you. I said last year in this year, I thought Syracuse had the highest floor of anybody. And I think they proved that, because as much as we had to talk Ryan off the ledge, late in the year, it was all good. Everyone was like, we're gonna fire Gate and everything. They still wound up being in the Final Four. Through all that topsy-turvy, they wound up being a Final Four team. That to me showed how high their floor is. I agree with you. Minimum, they're gonna make the quarterfinals. So much of that team the last 2 years in the middle of the field, their short stick defensive midfield, has been Jake Stevens and Sam English in 2024, and then Sam English in 2025. English out the door now. He was the engine of that team. I just wonder, that short stick teammate group, middle of the field, That's the kind of thing that makes the difference between a national champion and not, or a Final Four team and a quarterfinal. That it gives me some. We're a little worried there, the middle of the field there for Cuse, and that's the kind of thing that's holding me back. I was gonna say I don't think they could still make a Final Four. That's just kind of holding me back. Whereas like roster wise, I don't think Princeton has holes. I just think they need to execute better, and they need to kind of refocus on. Like in 2022, you guys were a great defense. You guys, they used to play such a physical game, and it feels like they've gotten more towards the, let's just score 20 on everybody, because they can. I mean, they got so much talent offensively. But I think this team can be really solid right on the field as well. So I'll go Princeton as well, but that's fun. I can't wait for the game. It's gonna be a great Friday night. All right, there you go. 2 hours and 5 minutes. It's good old lacrosse talk. I had a lot of fun with it. I hope you all do as well. You can find this wherever you get your podcasts. You can find this video to be uploaded on YouTube. So make sure that you go to youtube.com/lacrosse-commission or find our channel on YouTube, The Crosse Commission. Make sure that you subscribe if you have not already. Make sure you like this video. Turn notifications on for whenever we go live. Don't know when our next live show is going to be, but remember, during the season, we are live every Saturday night after the results of the games, the Power Hour to break it all down. That'll be back once again in 2026. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like the videos. Make sure you have notifications turned on for that. And again, hopefully, we will have a podcast out for you early next week with the interview with a special guest, where we talk some kind of schedules, how teams put schedules together. A lot of the stuff we kind of talk about tonight's show, how you look at RPI, types of teams you schedule, what's the thing, well, all that kind of good stuff. I think if we can put it together, it'd be a great couple shows to you guys. So we're going to look to hopefully have that out. If not, maybe in a couple weeks after or something like that. So we'll see. That, I think, then, Safe, is everything.
Great show, Jake. Good to be back on the saddle, back on the mics.
Absolutely.
I'm ready to go.
Happy Thanksgiving, friends. Happy, short work week next week. And we will see you out there. Stay hydrated. Thanks so much, President.